Hello, dear viewers, friends, and all that. This is TBT, and welcome to ARK Creature Feature. Today's video will feature a dinosaur that is as iconic as it is deadly, the Rex. Well, technically it's not the Rex, because this is Tyrannosaurus dominum, which is technically a downgrade, because Rex means king in Latin, but dominum means lord. That's not important. What is important is that this is one of the game's oldest creatures, but it has consistently remained one of the best, especially after its TLC. For those of you that are new to this series, this is where I'll be covering this creature's base stats, abilities, where to find one, how to tame them, and ways you can use them to improve your experience in ARK Survival Ascended. I'll also be giving my opinions on ARK's take of this creature, and give it a final score based on all these categories from 1 out of 10. Remember that this Rex, quote-unquote, is not the historical fossilized one in real life, which would be the actual T-Rex. This is a species created and modeled after it, technically making it a subspecies, sort of, kind of, not really. At best, it would be an artificial evolution or genetic manipulation, so comparing the two apart from in-game abilities representing something that the real-life counterpart had makes no sense, so I'll avoid that. Another example would be comparing the size. Yes, Tyrannosaurus dominum is larger than T-Rex. We all know this, so what? Moving on. Now, before we go any further, if you enjoy this content, go ahead and give this video a like, be sure to comment, and stomp that subscribe button to please the algorithm gods and spread this video across the platform. It helps out a lot, and I greatly appreciate the support. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss when a new video comes out. Alrighty, now that we've taken care of that, let's dive in. Stats. Alright, now for the stats, and this is where things are going to get a little crazy. Level 1, the Rex has base stats of 1100 HP, 420 stamina, 150 oxygen, 3000 food, 500 weight, and 62 melee, with 220 HP per wild level, 42 stamina, plus 15 oxygen, and plus 300 food, plus 10 weight, and plus 3.1 melee. Why is all of this important? Well, that tells you from level 1 onward exactly what you're going to be getting if you, say, run into a max level. And when you tame one of these things, you will get some additional bonuses. With HP, you will get plus 5.4% with an additive 0.07%. You'll get plus 10% to your stamina. You'll get plus 10% to your stamina, oxygen, and food. Let's just keep that simple. That seems to be a running theme with most of these creatures. You'll get plus 4% to your weight after taming, and then plus 1.7% to your melee with 7% additive and 17.6% multiplicative. Again, this is important just so you understand what these numbers mean and how they work. But as far as actual, like, in-game use, really the only number you need to worry about is melee, because that tells you what your actual damage would be before the melee multiplier, which is why creatures on their melee stat always show a percentage, not damage, because most of them have more than one attack. So that's the damage. So what I'm saying, 62 is the damage from its one and only real melee attack, the bite. And side note, so your actual damage on your max level mutated tamed Rex will be much higher, because the percentage bonus that it gets to that will be much higher. Alright, everybody with me on that? Alright, here's a chart straight from the wiki that demonstrates everything that I just said. So go ahead, take a look at it. Pause if you need to take notes, or you can just take a screenshot. That's what I did. Okay, now, as I said, in the wild, you will not find a level 1 creature unless you're playing on some funky settings or with the Hunted mod. Again, I don't even know if that's out yet. So what you're going to find, at bare minimum, is going to be at least 5 times as strong, roughly, because level 5, and most people play on difficulty 5. And trust me, the higher level you get, the more cracked this thing becomes, and it becomes one of the most powerful creatures in the game. There's a reason, with a very solid reach. Basically, this thing becomes your bread and butter. Anything that's in front of you, take a snap, take a left click, they're going to take some big damage. That's it. The roar. So, pre-TLC, this roar did absolutely nothing other than sound cool and probably blow out the eardrums of any poor sap who played this game with a headset on max volume. Nowadays, it still does that, but it also makes creatures and players that of a certain size stop and drop a deuce, stunning them for a couple seconds. What, did the Tyrannus have a copyright on Fear Roar or something? I mean, it does stop creatures and stun them for a split second, but I would have expected a little bit more if you're going to make it do anything. Trample! It's not the only creature with this passive ability, but when running, the Rex will deal a small amount of damage to any creatures that are too close to or directly under its feet. It will also knock down trees as well. Damage isn't great, but it's still something. If only for the hit stun it can inflict, although you may be scraping some compressed dodo meat off your Rex's toes when you return to base. And here's a chart of all those abilities. Actually, it doesn't have the trample on it, it just has the roar and the bite. Okay, so now if you're sufficiently enticed and are ready to do so, it's time to go looking for a Rex and either kill it for those puny arms because you need them for fighting the bosses, or to tame your own. Where do you look? I mean, much like the Allosaurus, it's honestly easier to find places where they don't show up. They kind of pop up a lot. I feel like they're a whole lot more common here in ARK Survival Ascended, and they spawn along rivers if you travel a bit inland, along open fields and near forests. They also spawn around and sometimes on mountains, which is a little awkward, but, watching the T-Rex do a seesaw on a tiny rock is kind of funny. Anyway, they may be more common now, but they are still somewhat uncommon as a spawn. You're gonna see them, but not a whole lot of them at any one time, unless it's like with babies, at least in my experience. It's worth noting that the Rex does have an alpha variant that, of course, isn't tameable, but can be found in all the same locations. Here, take a look at the spawn map yourself. I found mine along one of the southeastern rivers. Quick side note, the Rex also has a variant called Tech Rex, and if you didn't already know, it's exactly what it sounds like, although it doesn't yet exist in ASA. It also has an X variant that is like infused with lava. Awesome. If and when these things do come, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but you can find the Tech Rex in the same spawn areas as the regular Rex on any map where the regular Rex spawns, and it will be much rarer and have a slightly higher maximum level. Okay, so now you've found a nice beefy high-level Rex and you're wondering how to tame it. Well, the good news is that this is yet another basic knockout tame. Whoa. Yeah, those of you who watch my videos for a while know I'm not the biggest fan of these, like, basic bitch knockout tames, but it is what it is. At least it is simplistic. The bad news is that it's a pretty expensive one in the sense that you're going to be using a lot of resources. So my suggestions are bring at least 100 trank arrows or darts if using a long neck rifle, and preferably have the have the crossbow and the long neck be better than primitive. Even if you don't need that much ammo, it's better to be prepared in case of misses or ARK's janky hit detection. It's better than it was in ARK Survival Evolved. It is still not fantastic. Bring the classic trap box with the ramp on one side to lure it in. You can do a 3x3 or 4x4 with 2 or 3 walls in height. Like this one. Remember that the smarter AI means you'll probably have to try a few times to get this thing into the trap. A decently strong flyer or land mount that can jump over the wall on the other side of the ramp will do fine for this. Just be prepared to take a hit or two. Once the Rex is in the trap, it's time to pelt him full of enough drugs to render the average stoner completely toasted for about 10 years. Remember that your trank arrows and darts have an initial impact torpor damage, then a 5 to second buildup afterwards. Let that torpor build to get the most bang for your buck per arrow or dart. Once the Rex drops, it will take exceptional kibble or higher as its preferred food, followed by raw mutton, cooked lamb chop, and raw prime meat. It's a pretty simple creature to keep down. You shouldn't require any narcotics, but of course bring some just in case. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Once it's tamed up, slap a saddle unlock in this absolute beefcake of a therapod. The saddle unlocks at level 74 and is crafted in the smithy like most saddles in this game. Once you've got your Rex saddled up, be prepared to feel like an absolute god when you take this thing for a spin, at least for a little while. So, what do we use the Rex for? Let's get the obvious one out of the way first. The Rex is the premier boss killer apart from Motor and the Titans. An army of mutated Rexes with good saddles will probably shred almost any boss at any difficulty, especially after you Tyrannus buff and Daedon heal. Almost. The Overseer can still be a real pain in the ass to deal with, among others. These things are absolutely insane. Even though in the community we're all familiar with the Rex and kind of take it for granted, these dinosaurs are still extremely powerful. And in that same vein, they make fantastic alpha killers due to their high damage and high health pool. They can take even better than the alphas themselves sometimes. Following that pattern, if you ever need to go on a movie hide run, take the Rex out and kill everything you see. Kill them all. Just commit a complete purge and let the bloodlust flow through you. Take your revenge on every creature that ever dared to mock and or kill you. Now it's their turn to flee in terror, only to realize they never had a chance anyway. Alright, that sums up what the Rex does best. It kills things dead. What things? Well, unless it's a Titanosaurus, Giga, or Carcharodontosaurus, pretty much everything on the island. A good Rex has very little to fear from any individual creature apart from the three I just mentioned. In almost every instance, you'll be leveling up HP and melee almost exclusively. Maybe a little bit of stamina, just a wee bit, but it's unlikely you'll need too much. These things have pretty good stamina management. And it may not have the most diverse skill set, but what it does extremely well. This is everything a great late game carnivore should be. And what it lacks in versatility, it absolutely makes up for in sheer survivability and stomping power. Yes, pun intended. I love the way the Rex looks after its TLC. There were some subtle changes that made this thing go from horrendously ugly to pretty badass, and looking a hell of a lot more like the dinosaur it's actually based on. Here, see for yourself. Whoops, I dropped the thing. Left is post-TLC, right is pre-TLC. No notes here, I just wanted to point it out and give the comparison. Every change to its look went in a positive direction, as far as I'm concerned. That's just my opinion. And you're not wrong if you like the original design. It was ugly and still intimidating, but I think this just really worked out all the kinks. Now, as far as abilities go, I think that's where the Rex is lacking just a tiny bit. And that's only because I just don't think they went far enough. I'm glad it can walk up hills and that its roar does at least something, but that something is very mid. It is a stun, that's worth noting, but the odds of it being a creature you can reach before the stun wears off is pretty slim unless you get off your Rex to do it. If they were going to leave the roar at that, then I would say that it needs a sea ability. And speaking of which, I happen to have one in mind. I would be adding a sea ability in order to make use of that incredible bite force that all Tyrannosaurs are famous for. The sea attack would do a solid 62 damage, much like the regular left-click bite attack on the initial bite, but it would lift small to medium creatures up. I'm not going to list drag weights, it's just going to take too long. Larger ones, like up to a Diplo, are just going to be held in place for a little bit. Now, that also means if you grab a creature of larger size, you can't move either. So bear that in mind. Like the Megalosaurus, the Rex can carry creatures in this way, or it can do another left click, which will cause it to clamp down on that creature, unleashing its full bite force, shake it rapidly, and then drop it. Doing so causes a crippling blast of damage, and inflicts the Nash effect if it survives that, which drains 5% of the creature's max HP over 10 seconds and halves its movement speed. However, the cooldown on this secondary attack is 45 seconds, and this is all... It sounds already pretty cracked, but this is all taking into account... not taking into account saddle armor and any pre-existing damage resistance that these things get. So it's like, yes, it would do a lot of damage, but if you try that with a stego or something else, you're not going to do as much as you think you will. The real reason you like the Nashed effect, though, anyway, is that it halves movement speed. So, anyway, which is supposed to reflect this thing just cracked your femur with its bite. Anyway, as I said before, it's not the most versatile creature, but what it does extremely well. It takes hits, dishes them back even harder, it looks intimidating, and just is an all-around fantastic creature in spite of its very small shortcomings. I mean, it is also a little on the slow side, but it's fast enough to do its job. And as much as I gotta try to stay objective, I have to feel like I have some bias towards badass, and that gets in the way. All the same, I'm going to give the Rex 10 eardrum-shattering roars out of 10. There are some issues with it, but they're so minor in comparison to how great this creature is as a combat mount that I think it still deserves it. I know I gave the Aloe a 9 for a similar reason, but I think by virtue of being this powerful, the Rex just barely overcomes that last hurdle. It has that little bit more that it really needed in the form of just raw power. Alrighty, I think that covers everything for the Mighty Rex, or Tyrannosaurus Dominum. If you enjoyed this video and or found it helpful, do me a solid and stomp on that like button, comment and subscribe to please the algorithm gods, and spread this video around the platform. I really appreciate the support, thank you so much. Also be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. One quick note, I'm going to be working on these for the next few days to allow background stuff in my ARK game, like egg production and breeding, to happen. You know, just those kinds of things, so I stock up resources and whatnot. So the Let's Play videos, they'll resume once I've kind of built that all up. I've really had time to do that and just get on with it, because I've been feeling like I'm just kind of stuck right now. Also, these are really fun to make, and I want to make more of them. Anyway, this has been TBT. I'm signing out, and I'll catch you all on the next ARK Creature feature.